You won't believe what I did in the end. But I guess to make that make any sense, I need to start with the wall. More specifically, the noise inside the wall. It started as a soft clatter, like a marble rolling behind the drywall. Just enough to make me stop mid-hammer, cock my head, and listen. I was halfway through tearing down the outdated paneling in the upstairs guest room. The plan was to modernize the space, new paint, new floorboards, new memories. What I didn't expect to find was something hidden between the studs. At first, I thought it was a rat's nest or maybe an old pipe coming loose. But when I peeled back a section of plasterboard, there it was, a small bundle wrapped in deteriorating plastic. About the size of a paperback book. I tugged it out gently, wiped off the dust, and found myself holding a VHS tape. No label. No case. Just tape in silence. My wife walked in just as I was turning it over in my hands. "What's that?" she asked, her voice too casual. "Found it in the wall." She squinted at it. "Weird. Probably just some old home movie. You should probably throw it out." She was already backing out of the room before I could say anything. Didn't even ask to see what was on it. Just said, "Throw it out," and left. That stuck with me. I'm not usually the suspicious type. But something about how fast she dismissed it, how she didn't even glance at it, left me feeling like I'd tripped over something important. Something deliberately buried. That night, while she was in the bath, I went to the garage, dug through boxes until I found our old VCR covered in spider webs and regret. I set it up in the den with a small TV we used for Christmas movies, plugged everything in, and pressed play. The footage was grainy, distorted at first. Then it cleared. A wedding. Not ours. A beach. A crowd of maybe 20 people standing in the sand. Wind in their hair, the sound of waves in the background. The camera panned slowly, and then stopped. Her. Standing under an archway of flowers, in a white dress I've never seen before. Holding hands with a man I've never met. My throat went dry. I paused the tape. This was no high school prank or found footage. This was real. This was my wife getting married to someone else. And the date stamped in the corner of the screen? 3 years before we met. I sat there staring at the paused frame for a long time. She looked happy. Radiant, even. Not nervous. Not uncertain. Like a woman who knew exactly what she wanted. And somehow, she'd never told me. I didn't sleep that night. Or the one after. I didn't confront her either. Not yet. Instead, I started noticing things I hadn't before. The way she dodged certain questions about her past. The vague way she described where she grew up. The absence of photos from her 20s. I lost them when my laptop crashed, she always said. But now? Now I wasn't so sure. That tape had been hidden. Deep in the wall. Why? And more importantly, what happened to the man she married? The wedding seemed joyful, full of light. But if everything ended so well, why bury the only proof that it ever happened? Why pretend it never existed? I watched the rest of the tape the next night. Alone again. No sound, just visuals. The camera lingered on the groom's face several times. He seemed gentle, kind, honest, like someone I wouldn't mind knowing. By the end of the tape, I was shaking. Not from rage. Not even betrayal. From something colder. A kind of instinct I hadn't felt before, like I'd just stepped into the beginning of a mystery I didn't ask for. And couldn't ignore. The next morning, I took the day off work and drove to the county courthouse. If she got married legally, there'd be a record. Maybe even a name. I needed to know who that man was. Because I had a feeling. He didn't just walk away. You ever feel like you're watching your own life from the outside? Like one moment you're renovating a guest room, and the next, you're standing in a courthouse asking a board clerk if your wife has been married before? Yeah, that was me. I gave her name. Her full name. The clerk typed it in, smacked her gum twice, and said, "Huh." That "huh" hit harder than a punch. She turned the screen toward me. Marriage license, registered 11 years ago. Bride, Rachel and Carter. Groom, Daniel Pierce Ellis. I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand, but because I didn't want to. Rachel had never once mentioned the name Daniel. Not even in passing. Not even by mistake. I asked if there was a divorce record. The clerk scrolled. Shrugged. "Nothing here," she said. "Could have been handled privately. Or out of state. Or, not at all." I thanked her, walked out to my car, and sat behind the wheel for a solid 20 minutes. Not moving. Not thinking. Just blinking. The world felt different. Like the air itself didn't trust me anymore. That night, I didn't ask her anything. Instead, I watched her. She cooked pasta. Poured wine. Laughed at a dumb joke I made. Kissed me goodnight. And it felt like watching a movie where you already know the ending, but everyone else is still pretending it's a comedy. In bed, I stared at the ceiling, rewinding every conversation we'd ever had. The little gaps in her stories. The time she skipped her high school reunion because nobody really liked me. The vague references to bad breakups. None of it felt vague anymore. It felt strategic. I spent the next few days quietly researching Daniel Pierce Ellis. Nothing. No recent social media. No employer. No obituary. No police record. It was like he had fallen off the planet. So I changed tactics. I found a subreddit for missing spouses, yeah, it's a thing, and posted a vague request. No names. Just questions. Within 2 days, someone DM'd me a link to an old community page from a small coastal town. And there he was. A blurry image. Daniel and Rachel standing on a dock, smiling, holding hands. A date, June 2009. Right before everything changed. That was it. No follow-up. No explanation. Just right before everything changed. I reached out to the page admin. No answer. Account inactive. I screenshotted everything. Then, I looked at her. At Rachel. Not the woman on the dock, the one I married. And for the first time, I felt afraid. Not of what she did, but of what she was capable of hiding. Later that week, I brought up the topic of weddings while we were watching TV. I played it off casually, joked about bridezillas, said something about crazy beach ceremonies. Her laugh? Just a bit too sharp. Her wine glass? Emptied too quickly. And then she said, I've always wanted a small wedding. Nothing dramatic. Always wanted? I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled and nodded. That night, I made a decision. I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Daniel. About a marriage license without a divorce. About a hidden tape inside a wall. And if she could hide all that, what else could she hide? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. That face from the tape. The gentle expression, the calm smile, the trust in his eyes, like someone who believed in the person standing across from him. And now, years later, that someone was sleeping next to me in our bed, pretending she never knew him. But I couldn't prove anything. Not yet. What I had was a ghost. A face. A name. A town. I needed more. The next morning, I took a chance and called the local library in the coastal town from the photo. I told the clerk I was doing genealogical research. People are always more helpful when you say that. To my surprise, she didn't hang up. She asked for the names and the date I had. I told her, Daniel Pierce Ellis and Rachel and Carter. June 2009. Beach wedding. Maybe some kind of public event. She paused, then said, slowly, You're the second person asking about him this year. My stomach dropped. Someone else asked? Who? But she either didn't know or didn't want to say. She just added. There was a short article in the local paper back then. Wedding announcement. Then, nothing. She scanned and emailed me a copy. I opened it within seconds. There they were, smiling on the beach. Daniel in a pale blue shirt. Rachel in a simple white dress. The caption said, Locals Daniel Ellis and Rachel Carter tie the knot in intimate oceanside ceremony. But then something caught my eye. The article was dated June 15, 2009. I checked the tape again. The date stamp? June 18, 2009. A 3-day gap. That might mean nothing or everything. I started searching for more info on Daniel. Old forums. Class reunion pages. Wedding registries. Tax records. Most led nowhere. But one obscure message board for expats in Mexico had a single post from someone using the username dp.e_09. The post read, Sometimes people disappear because they want to. Sometimes because they have to. That was it. Posted in 2013. No replies. No profile picture. I messaged the account. No response. No activity in over 10 years. But it chilled me. Because if that was Daniel, why did he feel like he had to disappear? And what or who was he hiding from? Back home, I kept quiet. Kept smiling. But now, Rachel's behavior was starting to shift. She was checking her phone more. Texting in the hallway. Closing her laptop the second I entered the room. I wasn't paranoid. I was observant. I started keeping a notebook. Dates. Times. Her exact words when she slipped. Example. Tuesday, 9:42 p.m. Said that trip to Monterey when she always claimed she'd never been to California. Wednesday, 8:10 a.m. Whispered into phone, I'll handle it. Just don't call here. Handle what? Call why? One evening I asked her, Very casually, "Hey, what's your maiden name again? Just for the tax forms." She paused a beat too long, then said, "Carter." I nodded, smiled, jotted it down in my notebook. She was still lying. I checked our storage unit next. She rarely went there. I knew which boxes were mine. I knew her handwriting. At the bottom of one box labeled Christmas Decor was a sealed manila envelope. Inside were three things: a marriage certificate, a passport expired with her maiden name, and a photo that looked off, like she wasn't smiling naturally. A return ticket from Cancun to LAX, dated June 22nd, 2009. 4 days after the wedding on the tape. A solo ticket. No Daniel. That night, I lay awake again, staring into the ceiling fan spinning slow circles above our bed. One thought echoing in my brain, louder than anything else. What happened to Daniel Pierce Ellis after June 18th? And why did Rachel come home alone? I used to think the attic was just a place for old boxes and forgotten memories. Turns out, it was also a vault of secrets. Our attic is one of those cramped, dusty crawl spaces that you only go into twice a year, Christmas and maybe spring cleaning. I hadn't been up there in months, but something about that return ticket to LAX burned a hole in my brain. Why did she fly back alone? More importantly, why was there no mention of Daniel anywhere? I needed more. So that Saturday morning, while Rachel was at yoga, or at least claimed to be, I pulled down the attic ladder and climbed up, flashlight and gloves in hand. Most of it was junk. Plastic bins filled with decorations, old photo frames, tax folders from 10 years ago. A few baby toys she claimed belonged to her cousin's kid. Everything was covered in a layer of dust so thick it looked like snowfall. But tucked in the far corner, behind a stack of flattened cardboard boxes, I found something different. A wooden chest. Not big. Maybe the size of a microwave. And locked. Now, Rachel and I never kept anything locked. Not phones. Not drawers. Not cabinets. We didn't even have a safe. Why would she have a locked box in the attic? I looked for a key but found nothing. So I did what any curious husband with unresolved questions would do. I used a flathead screwdriver and slowly, carefully pried it open. It made a dull crack as the latch gave way. Inside, it smelled like cedar and paper. There were layers, neatly stacked. And what I found next wasn't what I expected. The first layer held letters. Dozens of them. Old-fashioned, handwritten, tied with twine. I opened one and instantly recognized the handwriting. Daniel's. "Dear Ratch," it began. "I know I overreacted about your past. I'm sorry. I just want to understand. I love you." Every letter had the same tone. Apologetic, uncertain, desperate. It was clear he was trying to hold on to her. And she kept these. Then came the next layer, photos. Printed ones, not digital. Mostly her and Daniel. Hiking. Laughing on a boat. Holding hands in a market. A few even featured other people, friends, family. They looked happy. Real. But then, near the bottom, something shifted. The photos got blurry. The expressions strained. In one, Daniel is staring off camera, wide-eyed. In another, Rachel is walking ahead of him, face tight. And then, no more photos of them together. Just her. Alone. The third layer shook me. It was a journal. Not hers. His. Small, black leather. Initials D etched on the front. The first page read, "If you're reading this, it means I failed to fix it." My hands started to shake. I turned the pages. Most entries were from May and June of 2009. They started calm, romantic, describing sunsets, quiet dinners, their new life. But then, one entry hit me like a hammer. She lied about her name again. I confronted her. She said it was for her protection. I don't know what that means. I'm scared I'm not the first one. The last entry was just 4 words. "I think she's dangerous." I sat there in the attic, surrounded by dust and fading light, the journal in my lap, the letters spread around me like fallen leaves. And all I could think was, what the hell did she do? Not what did she hide? Not why did she lie? What did she actually do? Because now this wasn't about a secret marriage. This was about someone who disappeared. A man who was scared. A man who loved her and thought she was dangerous. And this time, I didn't just believe him. I agreed with him. That night, when she came home, I was calm, quiet. She asked if I wanted takeout. I said sure. I even kissed her on the cheek. Because now I knew. She was watching me as much as I was watching her. The scariest part wasn't the lockbox, or the journal, or even the final, haunting words Daniel wrote. The scariest part was waking up the next morning, eating breakfast with her, watching her butter toast like nothing was wrong, and knowing exactly what she was capable of. She kissed me before heading out, said she had errands to run. I smiled, told her to be safe. And then, the moment the door closed, I turned into someone I didn't recognize. I began treating the house like a crime scene. Not officially, not legally, but every drawer, every closet, every digital trace. It all became potential evidence. I pulled her old laptop from storage, the one she couldn't get to work anymore. It booted just fine. Password? Sunset09. I wish I could say I was shocked, but I wasn't. She had saved more than I expected. Emails, scans of forms, a list of contacts labeled pre-marriage. Some names had check marks next to them. Others had lines through them. One stood out. D. Ask about his sister. Why would she need to ask about his sister? Was she looking for her? Or trying to avoid her? The inbox was mostly empty except for a few emails from someone named Lila C. Subject lines vague and casual. Got the documents. Let's not leave a trail. Burn after reading. Winky face. I took screenshots. Backed up the hard drive. This time, I wouldn't let the evidence vanish. The next change came with Rachel herself. She got colder. Not openly hostile, just less present. Like she was preoccupied. Distracted. Maybe even scared. But I played dumb. I complimented her more. Hugged her longer. Brought her coffee without asking. The more I smiled, the more she retreated. One night, I followed her. She said she was going to a friend's art show. Left in heels, lipstick, and a navy coat I hadn't seen in years. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys. She didn't go to a gallery. She parked 3 blocks away, walked into a bar. Not a nice one. The kind of bar that looks like it has secrets soaked into the floorboards. I stayed across the street, in my car, headlights off. 20 minutes later, he arrived. Mid-30s. Tall. Thin. Bearded. Not Daniel. Not anyone I recognized. They hugged. Not politely. Not like friends. They sat close. He ordered for her. She laughed. She put her hand on his. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared through the windshield, my jaw locked, my hands trembling over the wheel. But I didn't confront her. I didn't storm in. Didn't make a scene. Because this wasn't about jealousy anymore. This was about the puzzle. And she had just handed me a brand new piece. I waited for her to come home. She didn't. At 2:37 a.m., she sent a text. Staying at Kara's. Too much wine. Don't wait up red heart. There is no Kara. I know all her friends. Every one of them. And if there was a Kara, she wasn't in Rachel's phone. Or her emails. Or her social feeds. I responded, love you. Sleep well. Then turned off the lights and got to work. By sunrise, I had connected the man from the bar to a shipping company on the coast. The same company listed in an old scanned invoice in her laptop. His name? Lucas Wren. No criminal record. But he'd been flagged once for identity fraud. Nothing stuck. Charges dropped. I checked the company's website. One of their services? Overseas relocation. Suddenly, I realized this might not be about covering up the past. She might be planning her escape. And if she's leaving, what happens to me? They say when you stare into darkness long enough, it starts to stare back. I used to think that meant metaphor. Now I think it meant her eyes. Because when Rachel came back the next morning, smiling, humming, tossing her keys on the counter like she hadn't spent the night lying, I saw it. That flicker. She knew I knew something. And I knew she was watching me as much as I was watching her. The next few days felt like a hostage situation, and the house was the prison. We barely spoke, but everything was fine. She still cooked dinner. Still asked about my work. Still laughed at reruns of old sitcoms. But her laugh was just a second too loud. Her smile a second too tight. Every touch felt rehearsed. I didn't sleep much. I kept the journal under my pillow. The original tape hidden behind a false panel in the garage. A burner phone in my sock drawer. This wasn't marriage anymore. It was survival. I started researching Lucas Wren in earnest. His shipping company was real, but small, family-owned, with offshore connections. On paper, he was clean. But old message boards told another story. One woman claimed he helped her disappear after fleeing an abusive husband. Another thread mentioned that he used alternative identities for a price. I found a grainy photo from 2010. He looked 10 years younger, but it was definitely him, same sharp eyes, same smug smile. The man Rachel met wasn't just a fling. He was a facilitator. And she didn't just want a new lover. She wanted a new life. But why now? What was pushing her to run? Had I tipped my hand? Did she find something I touched? Or was it something else, someone else? I remembered the note. Ask about his sister. So I did. Back to the forums, to message boards, to online obituary archives. And finally, after 3 hours of digging through dead links, I found her. Samantha Ellis, sister of Daniel Pierce Ellis, currently living in Oregon. I messaged her. No response. So I tried a phone number listed under an old charity database. She picked up. Hello. Her voice was cautious, brittle. Hi, is this Samantha Ellis? Who's asking? I paused. My name is Aaron. I think I'm married to the woman who used to be your sister-in-law. There was a silence. Then, Rachel. Yes. She exhaled hard. The kind of breath you only let out when a ghost reappears. She told me you both moved to France, Samantha said. Years ago. After Dan. We've never been to France, I replied quietly. And Dan, what happened to him? More silence. Then the softest words I've ever heard. He never came back. She told me everything. Rachel and Daniel had started out happy. She was magnetic, unpredictable, full of adventure. But slowly, things shifted. She'd disappear for days. She lied about where she was from, about her family, about money. Daniel wanted to leave. She didn't. He tried anyway. The last time Samantha saw him, he said he was going to confront Rachel with proof he'd gathered. He vanished the next day. His body was never found. His accounts were drained. Rachel disappeared. I thanked her, promised to stay in touch, hung up, and then I sat in my car for a long time, staring out the windshield, not really seeing anything. All I could think was, she's done this before. She didn't just lie. She didn't just run. She erased him. And now, she was about to do it again. Only this time, I was the one she needed to erase. When you live with a liar, you learn to lie back. Not because you want to, but because it's the only way to survive. By the time Rachel came home that evening, makeup wiped clean, hair down, like nothing ever happened, I already had a plan. Not revenge, not rage, just truth. The kind she couldn't wriggle away from. I started with subtlety. I accidentally left the attic door slightly cracked one morning. When she came home, she froze in the hallway, eyes locked on the open panel. I walked out from the kitchen, holding coffee. Oh, sorry. I was looking for the Christmas lights. She nodded too fast, said nothing, but her fingers twitched as she walked past. She knew I'd been up there. And now, she was wondering how much I saw. Good. Next, I began using the burner phone. I created a fake identity. Troy Adams. A man with a vague connection to her past. Someone she might think she remembered. Using a spoofed number and encrypted texts, I sent her this. We need to talk. It's about Cancun. You can't run forever. It took exactly 13 minutes for her to reply. Who is this? I didn't answer. Not yet. Let her stew. Let her spiral. That night, she was on edge. Wine before dinner. 2 glasses instead of 1. She laughed too loud at nothing. Tapped her phone under the table. And I just smiled. Asked about her day. Told her I loved her. Let her think I still believed in her. Then, I added another layer. I went into the garage and pulled down the dusty box of home videos. Our wedding. Birthdays. Little things. I found the VHS tape, the real one, and brought it inside. Look what I found, I said, handing it to her. She stared at it for half a second too long, then smiled. I forgot about that one. No label though, I said. Weird, huh? She shrugged. Probably just blank. Want to check? She paused. Sure. I put it in the VCR. It was blank, because I had swapped it already. The real one was locked in my car. I watched her face the entire time. Her shoulders relaxed, but only just. I nodded. Guess it's nothing. Guess so, she whispered. But her hand trembled as she reached for her wine. The next morning, I got confirmation. Lucas Wren had booked a private shipping crate. Destination listed as Valparaiso, Chile. Date of departure, 1 week from now. Recipient, RC. Rachel Carter. She was ready to vanish. And I was running out of time. So I did the last thing I ever thought I'd do. I called Samantha. Told her everything. And for the first time, she didn't sound afraid. She sounded angry. I have a copy of the police report, she said. I've been holding on to it all these years. You want it? I said yes. She emailed it within an hour. Reading it felt like being stabbed in slow motion. There, in black and white, was everything I feared. Daniel Ellis, missing. No sign of forced entry. No signs of struggle. All electronics wiped. Bank accounts emptied. Wife left town within 72 hours. And at the bottom, scribbled in the margin, from the original officer on the case. Feels rehearsed. Like it's not her first time. That night, Rachel sat across from me on the couch, scrolling her phone, legs curled under a blanket. I asked her what she wanted to do this weekend. She said, maybe we could go hiking. I smiled. Because next weekend? She wouldn't be going anywhere. I never planned to become a performer. But when your life becomes a lie, you learn how to play your part. By Friday morning, every piece was in place. The fake texts, the swap tapes, the tracking data on Lucas, the call with Samantha. Everything. All that was left now was timing. I invited Rachel to dinner. Just the two of us. Homemade. Candlelight. Her favorite wine. She said yes. Even smiled. That night, she wore the same dress she wore on our anniversary last year. The irony burned in my throat, but I smiled anyway. You look beautiful, I told her. You always know what to say, she replied. If only she knew what I was about to say next. After dessert, I stood and said, one more surprise. She cocked her head. You didn't have to. I nodded. This one's not for you. It's for both of us. I walked over to the TV, slid in a USB stick, and hit play. It was a video stitched together over the last 2 weeks. Clips from the garage camera, footage from the hallway, screenshots of her emails, the police report, her name on the shipping manifest to Chile, and at the end, a still frame from the wedding tape. Rachel, hand in hand with Daniel. I turned the volume up. The last words Daniel ever wrote filled the room. I think she's dangerous. Silence. The kind of silence that doesn't just suck the air from a room. It replaces it with ice. She didn't speak for a full minute. Then, softly, where did you get that? I didn't answer. She blinked slowly, her face pale, eyes darting toward the door. I stepped in front of it. Sit down, I said. We're not done. She sat, back straight, hands folded. The mask dropped. Her voice changed. Calm, cold, sharp as glass. What do you want? That was the moment I knew. This was the real Rachel. Not the one who laughed at sitcoms. Not the one who decorated Christmas trees. This Rachel was calculation in a cocktail dress. I want the truth, I said. You already have your version. I want yours. She exhaled, tilted her head, then smiled. Daniel wasn't strong enough. He wanted to run. I let him. He just didn't know how far he'd have to go. My stomach turned. And Lucas? Her smile faded. Just for a second. Insurance. I nodded. So I'm next? She didn't respond. But she didn't have to. I let the silence linger. Then I said, there's one more thing. She raised an eyebrow. I pulled out my phone. You're on speaker. Say hi. Her eyes narrowed. From the phone. Hello, Rachel. Her whole body locked. Samantha's voice. Alive. Furious. Unafraid. I kept your letters, Rachel. I know what you did to my brother. And I'm not the only one who knows now. Rachel's jaw clenched. She stood. I didn't stop her. She walked to the sink, poured herself water, then turned, calm again. So what now? I stared at her for a long moment. No? I'm not the one you should worry about. Then I nodded toward the front window. 2 cars pulled up. Unmarked. Government plates. She looked at me. Eyes empty. You called them? I nodded once. You erased the wrong man, Rachel. They say justice moves slowly. Whoever said that never met me. Because when the unmarked cars pulled up to our house that night, when Rachel stood frozen in the doorway, when the knock came as sharp, deliberate, everything moved exactly how I planned it. Step by step, frame by frame, truth by truth. 2 federal agents. Quiet. Professional. No theatrics. They asked for her full name. She gave it too calmly. They showed a warrant. She read it twice. Her voice was barely a whisper. Identity theft? Conspiracy? Fraud? I stood a few feet away. Still. Silent. Watching her world implode. She turned to me. You did this? I didn't nod. I didn't blink. I just looked at her. Because yes, I did this. I built this moment. From ashes. From doubt. From fear. And now it was real. They took her without handcuffs. She went willingly. That's how people like Rachel operate. They control the narrative. Even when the walls are closing in. Even as the life they built burns from the inside out. She walked out the door in silence, but not before turning to me one last time and saying, "You think this is over?" I smiled. "For you, it is." She was taken to a federal facility. Not jail. Not yet. But the charges were real. Wire fraud, passport forgery, financial misrepresentation, destruction of records, disappearance of a prior spouse under suspicious circumstances. They reopened the Daniel Ellis case. I gave them everything. The letters, the photos, the journal, the passport, the shipping plans, even the USB with the tape. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a case file. Samantha flew out 2 days later. We met in person for the first time. Her hair was darker than I expected. Her eyes tired, but fierce. We didn't hug. We sat across from each other in my kitchen and drank coffee like war veterans who had both survived the same invisible battle. She looked at me. "You're lucky, you know." I raised an eyebrow. "Lucky?" She nodded. She didn't finish what she started. In the weeks that followed, I cleared out the attic, donated her clothes, canceled the moving truck she never booked, deleted her passwords from the shared accounts. Little by little, I erased her, not in anger, in release. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was starting over. And then something unexpected. The DA called. She's agreed to a deal. I waited. If she cooperates, provides details on other names, accounts, aliases, they'll reduce the sentence. But she made a request. What kind? A pause. Then, "She wants to speak to you." For a moment, I didn't breathe. After everything, after the lies, the manipulation, the fear. She wanted more? What could she possibly say? What was left? I thought of the man from the tape, of the journal, of the silence in our house. And then, I said yes. Because if she wanted closure, she'd get it. But it wouldn't come the way she thought. They brought me into the room just after noon. Fluorescent lights. White walls. No windows. Rachel was already there. Hair tied back. No makeup. Wearing a gray jumpsuit that looked like it belonged to someone else. She didn't stand when I walked in. Didn't flinch. Just looked up and said, "You lost weight." I smiled. "You lost everything." She tilted her head. Still calculating. "Even now. Even here. So what do you want? Closure?" "No," I said. "Just answers." She nodded slowly. "Then ask." I took the seat across from her. There was no glass between us. No bars. Just a metal table. But the distance between us had never been greater. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I asked, "What did you do to him?" She didn't blink. "Daniel?" I nodded. She shrugged. "He wasn't supposed to be curious." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're going to get." Her voice was calm, chilling, almost bored. Like talking about the weather. Like he was a mistake she had to erase. I took a breath. Didn't break eye contact. "Why me?" She smiled, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "Because you believed me." That hit harder than I expected. Was any of it real? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I stood. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. She watched me, but didn't stop me. "You wanted a new life," I said. "Well, you got one." She leaned back. "You think you won." I nodded once. "I didn't win. I survived." She laughed, soft and hollow. "You'll never trust anyone again." I walked toward the door. "I trust myself. And that's enough." They walked me out in silence. I didn't look back. There was nothing left in that room I needed to see. No words she could give me that would matter more than what she already took. She didn't destroy me. She exposed me. To myself. That night, I stood on the beach. Wind in my face. Shoes in my hand. I thought about the tape. About how it all started, with a wall and a noise and a truth I wasn't supposed to find. And I realized something. She was right. I did believe in her. And now, I believe in me. The waves rolled in. Quiet. Steady. No drama. No soundtrack. Just life. Moving on. Like I was. The end.